Grace and peace to you, beloved children of the Most High God. My name is Aaron Wilson, and I'm a believer, a member of First Baptist on Apple Street, called of God, and honored to serve on the ministerial team. The Reverend Dr. Johnny Robinson is our pastor and courageous and creative leader, and we bless God for him. I am delighted and humbled to be before you during this time of our corporate fast. And for these moments of encouragement and sharing, we'll be centering on the thought, make the choice to magnify the Lord. Make the choice to magnify the Lord. In approaching an understanding of the word magnify, for our clear purposes today, we can lay hold of that which is simple and readily available to us. Magnify means to make large, to make great, to draw emphasis to direct spiritual and emotional attention to a particular power, place, idea, or thought. My brothers and my sisters, I find this to be a most relevant and significant topic for us to ponder and meditate upon during this time of fasting where we are seeking spiritual renewal. For my dear fellow pilgrims, the question of discipleship, elevation, challenge, and hope in this moment of our living and drawing closer to God is, what are you going to magnify? Is my life going to be making large my competencies, abilities, skills, and achievements? Have I given myself over to making my name great? Am I going to magnify complaints and discontents? My fellow Christians, are we who bear the biggest V for victory by what was done on Calvary, are we going to find ourselves as pessimists? With cynical mindset and sour language, always complaining about how bad things are, amplifying bad news, answering the problems of this world with an empty, self-righteous tisk. Beloved, we have a choice to make. For the Christian ought to be excited about proclaiming that we have heard the joyful sound, Jesus saves, Jesus saves. But all too often, Christians give themselves over to the shaking of the head and the sullen tone of we are living in the last and evil days. But what are you going to magnify? Are you going to magnify in this time that you've had resolutions and commitments at the start of a year that you did not execute? Are you going to magnify that resentments and thus make your past your prison? Are you going to magnify the pain of previous trouble and failures? But I invite you to make the choice to magnify the Lord. Magnify the eternal hope we have in Christ Jesus. The opportunity to step into mercies that are new every morning. Opportunities to learn something new and to become something new. What are you going to magnify? That great Psalm of David, the one that is numbered 34, particularly verse 3 that is familiar to many and ignites a shout of excitement within us. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Psalm 34 and 3. That psalm has a context and a backstory that puts forth clearly the charge and the choice that we must make to magnify the Lord. This was not a psalm written in a palace. It was not one of those written for a special choral ensemble or for a praise team that could so soulfully modulate and sang. This psalm was not written with pious, holy contemplation for a feast or a high holy day. It was not written in a study. No, this was written in a time of utter distress and discomfort, when it was shown enough going down and by all appearances down bad in the life of David. Quickly painting a picture, let me tell you the story, give you the context out of which these arresting words in this powerful psalm emerge. David had pretended to be mad before Abimelech, had acted shown enough crazy. Abimelech then drove him away, and he fled a situation David did where he was hoping to be received well. David was a fugitive of Saul, and he went to the Philistine city of Gath. That's right, the Philistines, amongst the very people whose champion whom he had decapitated and humiliated. And he was there seeking refuge and found none, and he narrowly escaped the city of Gath. David then finds himself in a cave. David went to the cave at Adullam, and in this cave he's in the company of weary and desperate and frightened men, whom he had led into this very predicament. But I submit to you that he is in a physical cave, not adapted for human habitation. It is dark, dank, and dreary. It is a spiritual cave as well, encased by fears, seemingly at the end of his rope, isolated from both friend and foe. He's supposed to be the king that sits upon Mount Zion in a beautiful palace. yet he finds himself burrowed and stowed away in a rocky hole. What, beloved, right now, this year will you magnify in the face of difficulty? The circumstances or the promise? The ugly or the possibilities? How it looks or God's x-ray vision that sees through the impossible to the impossible. For in a time of terrible, literal and spiritual, psychological, emotional darkness, David chose to magnify and focus on the undying bright light and power of God. And he declared, I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praises shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make her boast in the Lord. Let the humble hear of it and be glad. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Make God's promises, power, and provision big. Draw all of your emotional and spiritual senses to the cross. Let God arise and get your enemies and excuses and problems and be scattered. And let us exalt his name together. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Beloved, make the choice to magnify the Lord.